So I'm Robert Watkins. I'm in Los Angeles. I worked with my dad for 20 years. My dad in the 80s was part of Curl and Job and first started operating on athletes and getting them back to sport. Troy Aikman and Wayne Gretzky and all those guys. He retired a couple years ago, so now it's just me. And I got partners who are great, but I cover all 10 LA teams. The Rams, I got to be at the Rams game on Sunday. Dodgers, Lakers, Clippers, I cover them all. USC, all their athletic department. I'm a consul for the NFL Combine. And I get MRIs sent to me. I probably review 3 to 5 MRIs a week from all over the country. Cervical spine stenosis, disc herniations, myelopathy, can he play or not? So I review probably at least 150 pro athletes a year. And it's crazy. I mean, there is no guidelines. There is no textbook. You kind of just use your best judgment where you protect the player, and you got to protect yourself. A lot of intensity, and operating on a pro athlete is great, but I guarantee you that's what you'll wake up at 3 in the morning worried about. If it's on ESPN, it never goes away. It's with you 24 hours a day. And it sounds great at first, but you got to figure out how to deal with it. There's my app, Back Doctor. It's in the App Store. It's free. We've had like 500,000 downloads of it. So cervical artificial discs, alternatives, frame-otomy, fusion. When is ADR the best option? You know, frame-otomies in athletes, Wellington in Chicago, produced this great paper that basically said frame-otomies went back faster, more reliability, they did great, but they showed a 46% reoperation rate in high-level athletes with a frame-otomy. I don't think it's that high. They had limited patients, maybe it's 25%, but it's too high in a pro athlete to tell them, yeah, you're going to have this high of a chance of a resurgery. You get one shot at a professional athlete. It's got to work, and it's got to last at least 2 to 3 years. Is this going on its own? So anyway, fusions obviously been around forever. We published this a while ago, 80% return to play, average 9 months. I think the average is more like 6 to 8 months now, but you can get non-unions, you can get adjacent level issues. You got to stop this thing from going. Is that just whatever? The concerns with fusions. You get non-unions. We use iliac crest bone graft inside of a titanium-coated PEEK cage. But we take iliac crest bone graft, just core out a plug with a plate on the front. Adjacent level issues, 25% in 10 years in the general population. I tell NFL players it'll happen in 3 to 5 years. 25% chance you're going to get an adjacent level issue and probably have to retire. So it gives them some parameters to make decisions. Cervical ADRs, I probably do 80% ADRs, 20% fusion. So I'm really pretty aggressive with ADRs in the general population. I did this one this week. Adjacent level calcified disc with progressive myelopathy. I put a Simplify in and took down that bone spur. I mean, so I'm not shy about ADRs, and I push the envelope at times. Cervical ADRs in athletes in the literature, John just showed this. It's pretty weak. 7 pro athletes. Only 1 real contact. In the press, there's been 5 pro athletes, 3 hockey players. Personally, I've done 6 pros, and they haven't made it in the literature or the press, so we can add all those together probably. I've done 3 UFC fighters, 2 major league pitchers, and 1 NFL kicker for cervical ADRs. What's the risk of putting these in professional athletes? How many ADRs have been done worldwide in the world? At least 1 million. Are we at 2 million now? I can't get good data. If anybody knows, let me know. How many catastrophic injuries after a cervical ADR in the literature? I found 1. Paragliding events that might end up paralyzed. Probably would have been paralyzed anyway. So the point is these have been around longer now to where we have some data to know they don't catastrophically just explode with a traumatic injury, which is good. Car accidents, they don't blow apart. So you can recommend them in sports more liberally because at least we have some track record. But these violent collisions, like if you think baseball is a non-contact sport, watch the World Series when the game is on the line and they're running to first base or trying to catch a ball in the outfield. There are violent collisions in any sport, and you have to plan for that. You can't have somebody go down and be paralyzed on national TV. So low-risk ADRs for me, basketball, even though there can be collisions, baseball, soccer. Moderate risk or the hockey. The UFC is between moderate to high. I mean, I've done 3 UFC guys, and just what you alluded to, watching that fight when a guy goes back and someone's trying to rip his head off and you've put an ADR in his neck is not fun. It's a terrible experience to watch. You're just waiting for it to fall apart. The highest risk is American football. Why? I mean, football is a game of inches where they will go, they'll say, I'm not going to lower my head, I'm not going to spear the guy. Well, when the game is on the line, they all lower their head because that's how you generate the most force to get that extra inch to get the first down. So if you're going to do it a football player, you have to assume they're going to try and run their head into a wall and plan accordingly. These are the 3 UFC fighters I've done. I've used a Pro Disc, a Prestige, Simplify. The discussion as to which disc you're going to use is important because we don't have the perfect disc yet. The Pro Disc I like, but you can get HO with it. Sometimes they go into kyphosis and you can't control it. The Prestige I used for a while, but I do not like the in-plate fixation. It's not that good. And I hate those tabs on the front. They're just totally unnecessary. That was just a royalty design issue, IP issue. The Simplify is what I use now because I like the center keel. It goes where you want it to go and it's not going to move. The osteolysis concerns, I see remodeling anteriorly with the Simplifies because I think where the ceramic hits is where it weight bears and then it stress shields and you get bony reabsorptions anteriorly because there's not as much weight bearing. I haven't seen failures. I don't know if that's even bad, and I don't even know if we can consider that osteolysis, but that's what I've seen is reabsorption anterior to the Simplify, but I like that device. So deciding on athletes, which one's the safest to go back to play for their long-term life. Some people come into me, they want an ADR rather than a fusion. I have to determine is it safe to go back with that? What's the precedent in the sport? And are you doing it for an acute herniation, myelomalacia, or congenital stenosis? And some people have all three, and you got to work out, what exactly is most important. Here's a couple examples. One, NFL linebacker, myelomalacia in his cord, very minimal symptoms, but he had just a little bit of dexterity issue. Who thinks he should retire? Just quit. Who thinks he should have a fusion of that to go back to play? Who thinks they do an ADR in that? ADR? All right, we got 2 votes. You guys got to step up. You got to vote, man. This is the time. In a football player, I do a fusion. I tell him you can go back to play, probably an 85 to 90% chance he'll go back to play, and 25% chance you may get an adjacent level issue in 3 to 5 years and then have to retire. But is it worth it for 3 to 5 years to make 20 to 30 million? Usually it is. I don't really, for me, I want in-plate fixation where the thing is not going to fail. I don't really care how much it moves. It just cannot come dislodged. The major league pitcher, I'm only halfway through my talk. The major league pitcher, spinal cord compression. And a pitcher, Major League Baseball, pretty safe, pretty bad spinal cord compression. That's off to the side a bit. Who would just tell him to retire? Who would tell him to do a fusion? Who would tell him to do an ADR? So I did an ADR. This is a Medtronic. You see I kind of went into kyphosis. I like the Simplify because I've never had a Simplify not go into kyphosis. Every single one is in lordosis for me. That's one of and I like lordosis. I hate these things that look kyphotic. But he went back to pitch with no issues. NFL place kicker. So we got a field goal kicker. He's left C6 radiculopathy, 5-6 disc herniation on the left side. I did a Pro Disc in him. He wanted it. He's a pretty smart guy, been in the career a while. 6 months post-op, his exam is normal. The radiculopathy went away. Would you clear him to go back to the NFL as a place kicker with a Pro Disc in his neck? Who would clear him to go back to play? Who would not? Who would tell him, don't go back with that? I cleared him, but guess what? No NFL team would sign him. And then he went to the XFL. Nobody would sign him. If you Wikipedia him, this is on his Wikipedia page. It says he was waived after failing to receive medical clearance as he had an artificial disc in his neck and not a fusion because there was no precedent. So the teams, it doesn't matter what I think, the team didn't want to sign him because they got another kicker who's never had this. They don't have to take a risk. So they just signed the other kicker. So you got to know what the precedent is. You can't tell somebody, oh, you're going to do the surgery and go back. If nobody signs them, well, then you've taken some risk and some liability in doing that. NBA player, this is pretty recent. Glancing blow, got a stinger in his left arm. 24 hours later, got myelopathic, his left arm and his hand. He said he couldn't dribble in his whole life, and he couldn't feel it, and his balance is a little bit off. Extension, Sperling's caused arm pain. Positive Hoffman's on the left, a brisk reflex, a little bit of weakness in his arm. Here's his MRI, C3, C4, kind of a disc herniation, but not terrible, but the spot in the cord that MRI doesn't show up as well. See how big the white is? That was all real, and the contrast in the thing. This is the MRI axial cuts, like 4 different axial cuts. You could see the edema in the cord on all of them. So pretty significant. So what do you recommend? Just observe it, do an ADR, do a fusion. He said he was better like 24, 48 hours later. I said, well, just wait. Let's give this a month. There's no rush, you know, and see if the strength recovers. He went and saw the team neurosurgeon who said, you need to have surgery. If you get in a car accident or you trip and fall, you're going to be paralyzed. You need to have a fusion today. Gave him a neck collar to walk around in a hard collar. NBA player's not going to wear a hard collar walking around on the street. The player wanted to have surgery. He said, I don't want to live like this. I want to get it fixed. Would you do an ADR or a fusion in that case in a basketball player with that edema in the cord? Who would do an ADR?
I would get flexion extension first, make sure.
Yeah, it's stable. Who would do a fusion? So we got a CT scan that actually showed some chronic bone spur in that area. So that means there's a lot of mechanical stress in his neck that goes to that area. Made me a little more weary about an ADR with that much edema in the cord and a player. And so I did a fusion on him. And I was a little bit worried. See the intraoperative x-ray with my marker film, how I thought, maybe did I leave some bone spur down there where the arrow is? And so I took it out and there was nothing there. I think it was just calcified off. And then the post-op, you can see the level below kind of had that radiographic thing too. But I was happy I didn't do an ADR if I left some degree of bone spur at the end plate still pushing on his cord. Those are the things that wake you up at 3 in the morning if you operate on pro athletes. Did I leave something? Is it going to show up later? So if you ever want to know what you really believe in and what device you think is best, operate on a pro athlete or put it in your wife, and then you'll know what you actually believe in because you got to live with it. My practice, 80% ADRs, 20% fusions. In athletes, I prefer to do ADRs unless there's a compelling reason not to. And I do it in all sports except American football. I just don't think there's a need for it in football. It's the biggest sport, the most liability. You can get sued for $100 million, and you don't have malpractice that covers you for that. So at some degree, you got to make the safest decision for them and you. And the bottom line is at the bottom. Baseball, basketball, soccer, I would do it. Hockey, UFC, I probably would. Football, not very likely. Thank you.